Coming to you live from the Behind the Mind Studios. I'm your host, Cheston Smith, here with the one and only
Samuel Pickett.
Samuel, what are we about to do today?
We're about to go behind the minds on the second episode.
Are we ever? We just finished the second episode, and what do you have to say about it?
Wow.
Well, thanks. You're so kind. Sam has already watched the episode and he's took plenty of notes. He's here to analyze it for you and ask the questions that you want to know. I'll be explaining the creative decisions behind making the game and also the editing decisions behind the episode. Then we'll be giving away the award for the player of the episode. After that, I'll deep dive with a special cast member from the episode in a segment I like to call 1 Year Later, discussing where their life is at now, post Battle of the Best. And finally, some deleted scenes, clips that couldn't make it into the episode here just for you to see. And it goes without saying, spoiler alert, if you have not watched this week's episode of Battle of the Best, you're about to be spoiled. 3, 2, 1, let's go Behind the Mind. Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Behind the Mind Studios. I'm your host, Cheston Smith, here with
Sam Pickett.
And once again, we are going behind the mind to cover
Survivor Durant's Battle of the Best, episode number 3.
Episode 3. Sam, we just finished it. What'd you think of the third episode?
Woo-wee!
Yeah.
It gets better and better.
Ric Flair on him, huh? Go Ric Flair.
Episode number 3 has some lovely things going on.
I'm glad that you enjoyed the episode. What makes these episodes seem so short is there is a lot of stuff happening. You know, we had a trip to Mystery Island, we had a tribe shuffle, and we had another blind side. What were some of the highlights of the episode for you?
For me, in this episode, we get to see a fan favorite, or I should say fan dreaded challenge. We got to see a lot of intrigue. Nobody knows exactly who to trust. Nobody knows exactly who's in their corner and whose corner they're in. And most of all, we get to see a lot, and I mean a lot, of sass from multiple sources.
Yeah. We have a lot to get to, so we might as well jump in right now. Sam has already watched the episode and he's took plenty of notes. He's here to analyze it for you and ask the questions that you want to know. I'll be explaining the creative decisions behind making the game and also the editing decisions behind the episode. Then we'll be giving away the award for the player of the episode. After that, I'll deep dive with a special cast member from the episode in a segment I like to call 1 Year Later, discussing where their life is at now, post Battle of the Best. And finally, some deleted scenes, clips that couldn't make it into the episode here just for you to see. And it goes without saying, spoiler alert, if you have not watched this week's episode of Battle of the Best, you're about to be spoiled. 3, 2, 1, let's go Behind the Mind.
Starting out, we get a little peek into Mason's head where he doesn't trust Jacus. And in fact, the question he was asked is, who does he trust the least? Jacus. And then he's asked, who does he trust the most? And he says, basically anyone but Jacus. So, that's a thing. But it cuts to something that nobody expected. A vote at the winning camp.
Right, an impromptu vote at the winning camp. When's the last time you've seen that in a game of Survivor?
When I was helping film Battle of the Best.
Yeah, that's another first, I think, for a game of Survivor. And, you know, we're all about trying new things, doing things that haven't been done before, keeping players on their toes, doing the unpredictable thing. But actually, the whole vote at the winning camp wasn't even necessarily planned. Dylan received an advantage through that vote at the winning camp that I'm still not going to reveal what it is. So in episode 4, we'll get to find out what Dylan's advantage was that he won by having the votes. But initially, in creating the game, that was actually supposed to be the shifting vote topic for the second tribal council that Cole left home at. And so we needed a way to still get this advantage into the game. And so the fairest way we could think of is an impromptu vote at the winning camp.
From there, we call everyone out. It's time for the next challenge. But first, it's time to drop your buffs.
Yep. Tribe shuffle.
Previously, Shelby, previous tribal council, voted to who cannot help a different tribe.
Right.
Of course, nobody knew what that meant. But now we find out that she is now a tribe captain.
Yeah.
But of course, we can't just have one captain. We draw rocks. Mason has the golden ticket. But that wasn't the only golden ticket. There was also the blue rock, picked by Briar. That led to a third team. What was the mindset behind having a third team? Why did you could have easily said, all right, we're going to have 2 teams, this many. Why did you go 3?
The mindset behind this tribe shuffle, I wanted to first do something that's never been done before, so that way the players couldn't predict how to rig it into their favor, and to secondly make it as random and fair as possible. The previous tribal council, when Shelby got the vote for you can't help another tribe, making her a captain, no one was able to predict that therefore meant she was going to be a team captain. No one could have predicted that by not helping a tribe, they would then get to draft their own tribe. So it also made sure that the person who was on the bottom was going to create their own tribe. And the only other fair way that I could think of, and also, the voodoo of bringing all these previous twists together, it gave me an opportunity to bring back the twist of fate twist, which is leaving things to fate, leaving things to chance. And that's what we did here. We left it to fate, and fate just so happened to have landed on Mason as being the second team captain. The reason why I didn't do 2 tribes is because it would have been pretty easy for them to stack their own tribes with their friends. And as a captain, you're probably going to make sure that if you lose, you're not going to be the one voted out for the next 3 votes. And I didn't want that to happen. So in order to avoid that, I came up with the decision to create a third tribe. But this third tribe isn't going to be drafted like the other 2 are going to be drafted. It's going to be made up of people who are unwanted or players that get canceled out, because I came with that caveat of you can draft whoever you want. Your most important person's your number 1 draft pick. However, the catch is if your opponent also drafts that person as their number 1, meaning your opponent knows who your favorite person in the game is, who your closest ally in the game is, if they put that as their number 1, they're going to prevent you from drafting your closest ally, and therefore by default it's going to go to a third tribe. You couldn't have this sort of default system, this cross out cancel system, if there was only 2 tribes. So this made it to where people had to think an additional layer when drafting tribes. It wasn't so straightforward. There would be repercussions for how you drafted. That's kind of like what influenced things to happen. And we do see that come into play with Mason's draft pick, because his first draft pick was Dylan, and he did that because he first thought that Shelby wouldn't draft Dylan number 1, and second because his other members of his tribe, Peyton, Mason, Ronnie, who do you think they're voting out if they lose? Dylan, absolutely. It's a good move on Mason's part. It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. A team captain's going to make sure that they are not the first person voted out of their new tribe. And that's exactly what Mason did. And that's why he put Dylan as the number 1 draft pick, because he couldn't afford to lose Ronnie or Peyton. Whereas if there was no sort of cross-out system, he probably would have drafted Ronnie or Peyton first. The third tribe with Briar, there's an additional member. There's 5 members, so they kind of have an edge. But the bad part about that is that they are the 5 outcasts, the 5 players that the other captains didn't deem as the most valuable. They're just the leftovers. And so I wanted to make sure that at this point in the game, whenever we're this deep into the game, that these leftovers have a reason to come together, that they're not going to just automatically default back to what their tribes were or what their ties used to have been. At this point in the game, they need to have a wake-up call and say, hey, we weren't drafted for a reason. It's because no one else wants us. We're on this leftover tribe. Now let's us stick together. And for the most part, we kind of seen that. Like, we kind of seen this tribe of 5, the new Athena tribe, started by Briar and then added with Jacus, Nate, Cameron, and Gabe. We've seen them kind of stick together for this vote when they were deciding to vote out Kirk. But then we've seen how quickly people default to their previous setting. How quickly people will just go back to the way things were. When we've seen Cameron and especially Jacobs go right back to Shelby's side and try to make like a move on Kirk, therefore getting the whole plan flipped on Shelby. But it turns out Cameron didn't even vote anyway, but still you see the picture. Not even this tribe of 5 could stick together. Like, Jacobs didn't even think, hey, like, I wasn't drafted, like, I wasn't on the bottom. And this wasn't really shown or highlighted in the episode, and maybe it will get highlighted in some deleted scenes or something, but that was actually planned by Jacobs and Shelby for Shelby not to draft Jacobs, because you would think that that's the first or second draft pick that Shelby would have done, is to make sure that she had Jacobs on her tribe. She purposefully did not draft Jacobs to conceal their relationship, and then Jacobs went back to camp acting mad, acting like, I can't believe she burned me, why wouldn't she draft me, I thought we were close. That was all set up on their part to not look as close as they actually were. When it came down to voting, we seen how close they were because they were trying to vote together, but little did they know it was a blind side on both of them.
So, after the draft, which I myself was surprised to see that Shelby picked Kirk, who she had previously tried to vote out.
Yeah, it makes you wonder like what Shelby's mindset was, because yeah, she did get the other girls, and maybe she was trying to do an all-female thing and take out an easy target, but what she didn't, I guess, plan about is how close Ryan, Taylor, and Kirk are. And she probably seen that Taylor and Kirk were close because they voted her husband out previously. They're the only 2 outcasts, so of course they're gonna like come together. And she also said that she was primarily drafting to try to win immunity, to not end up at tribal. So maybe in her mind she was drafting the best overall challenge competitors. You know, you have Taylor, who's great on the puzzle, Kirk, who's a well-rounded player, and then Ryan is one of the best athletes and has the Survivor Durant Challenge record. So maybe that's what she was going for, but at the same time, what she needed to also think about is, what if we don't win? Yeah, like on paper, maybe we look like we're a good tribe to win an immunity, but what if we don't win? And they didn't win. And even still, when they didn't win, Shelby wasn't even immediately in danger. Somehow, the rest of them forgave her. You heard Taylor and Kirk say, I genuinely want to try with her. I genuinely want to give her another chance. I want to rebuild this. I want to see where this is going to go. So they even still, like, you would think she'd be in trouble because they just voted out her husband. They're giving her another chance. But Shelby couldn't resist the bait, wanted to take another stab at Kirk, and so they had no choice but to vote her out. And we've seen once again how it all happened. You don't tell Taylor. Jacobs goes to Taylor and tells her what the plan is, and once again Taylor flips the whole thing upside down and takes out another member of the Miranda family.
The challenge that we see in episode 3 is, of course, the favorites, Netflix and chill. Such a brutal and enduring challenge.
It is, and in more than one way it is.
With this challenge, we had, of course, story time. This was one of the longest challenges we endured during Battle of the Best.
Yeah, you can't have, the all-star season, the last season of Survivor Durant, and not do our most iconic challenge.
However, in this challenge, you gave out clues for safety.
Yeah, for idols.
You can see during the Netflix and chill, especially on some of the longer and harder questions, you can just see some of the players just dying a little bit on the inside.
Which is what I live for.
We only see one team, one person mess up, and that's Cameron. He goes... He gives his answer, but he is not
in front of the line.
Yeah,
he gets an X.
Getting the only X. How did that make you feel in the midst of all of this going on? You've got 3 people in the ice, you got 3 people running, suddenly it's, I didn't know. How did you feel about that?
I mean, I didn't have any negative emotion. I just had to be a fair judge. It didn't matter to me who it was. I had to call it the way that it was, the way that it is. I had to call it straight up.
We are left with an ogre tribe win, unfortunately not captured. That leaves Athena and Thor heading to the loser camp. Of course, this is after a complete tribal reshuffle, and this is the first time some of our players are going to the losing camp. And they may be on a tribe with people they haven't worked with at all.
Mm-hmm. I like to see tribal councils that are very open, that are very flexible. I like to see players do what's best for them. And sometimes you do get the boring answers. Sometimes as an audience member and as a host, you see players do what's best for them, but it might not necessarily make good TV, or it might just be them sticking to what they know, and that sucks to see. But at the same time, you have to understand, okay, they did what was best for them. But as a host, I do like to see people voting in voting blocks instead of alliances, because that tells me I did a good job of making sure that the dynamics are constantly being switched with who's at the losing camp. I did a good job with whatever twists are in the game to make sure that they are willing to vote with whoever. It's refreshing to see, to have this. The previous seasons, it was kind of the opposite. We in season 8 we seen Shelby and Edgar just steamroll the whole season. This is not the case this time for them, or in general. There is no such alliance sort of steamrolling things. It's, hey, let me grab this person, and we'll make it through tribal council this round. And the next time it's, let me grab that person, and we'll make it through tribal council this round. It's really refreshing to see that these players are being so open-minded.
Speaking of twists, there was another twist at the winning camp. The winning tribe, the Ogre tribe, was pulled aside and told unanimously pick one person to once again go to Mystery Island. And after some debating, it was decided it would be Mason. Mystery Island, in this situation, morphed into Tribal Council. Mason got to cast both a vote for somebody to go home, as well as the shifting topic vote. Of course, he votes Jacobs, and he votes Shelby for the shifting topic vote, the Tree of Fate. We also get to hear a little bit from Dylan. Now, previously, Dylan had stated that the person he trusted most was Edgar. Well, now there's no more Edgar, and he even states, now there's nobody he feels he can trust.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Dylan knows what happened to him. Dylan knows that he was drafted on Mason's tribe to be the lamb led to the slaughter. The writing is on the wall. We can all see what Mason did.
Cameron lets out to Briar and Jacobs, I will not be voting at this tribal council. I won't tell you why, but do with this information what you will. That is putting a lot of trust in the hands of two others, one of which he hadn't previously really gotten a chance to work with. From your point of view, was this a wise move?
I think that it's very questionable. I think it's very questionable gameplay. I think Cameron kept him on the loop that he wasn't going to be voting, but he also didn't have to divulge that. And if you're going to divulge like half of it, you might as well divulge the rest, because it makes Gabe and Briar question your loyalty. It's like, okay, like you admitted to me that you're not going to be voting in the next tribal council, but you don't trust me enough to tell me why you're not going to be voting. And he made another questionable choice in the same round whenever he went up to Taylor, and he said to Taylor, I don't want to tell you anything, just vote Kirk. In a game of social politics, you literally just said, I don't trust you enough to reveal to you like what my intentions are, what my plans are, but I just want you to vote Kirk. What is Taylor supposed to think? So I think that Cameron made some questionable decisions socially that round. Good on him for finding the advantage. Good on him for realizing that he didn't need to vote this round and banking that advantage. But I also have to think that he was also blindsided that Shelby went home. And even if he had voted, it wouldn't have made a difference. Shelby still would have went home. It makes you wonder if he had the knowledge that Shelby was going, would he have voted to try to save her? That would have really gave us the intel on how Cameron's mind would have worked. I will also say, like, Mason going to Mystery Island was pretty cool because he helped make the original Mystery Island game. And I knew that for this game, with this being, like Mystery Island's like last appearance in a Survivor game, I wanted Mystery Island to only ever be things it never was. Previously, Mystery Island could transform into Ghost Island, Island of the Idols, Extinction Island, Redemption Island, Exile Island. These are all famous twist islands associated with the television show. But I wanted Mystery Island to not transform into these islands that it's known to transform into, but to transform into something different every time. So we've already seen in the very first episode Mystery Island transform into the losing camp, and we get a preview for the next episode that Mystery Island's coming back again to transform into Island of the Ages, something that happened in the 8th season of Survivor BC. But this episode we see Mystery Island become Tribal Council, and I think that everyone was kind of like closed-minded, like kind of like boxed off, like these are the borders of what Mystery Island is. This is all Mystery Island can ever be. It's going to be one of these twist islands that it's associated with on the TV show. And what I wanted to do with not just Mystery Island, but with this whole game, is to expand the borders on what things can be and break boundaries and get people thinking. So now it's like, holy crap, now Mystery Island can transform into a losing camp. Mystery Island can transform into Tribal Council. Why did I not think of that before? So getting to see Mason go to Mystery Island was really cool. And with it being Tribal Council, he got to throw that rogue vote on Jacobs. And you'll see in episode 4 that one tiny rogue vote on Jacobs from Mason, nobody knows where it came from. Everyone is so confused, and there will be repercussions because of that one little Mystery Island vote. People will chalk it up to, gosh, I guess Jacobs just voted for himself. People lose their mind over that Jacobs vote, and it's going to be great for everyone to see.
Funny enough, had Cameron not said anything about not being able to vote this round, nobody would have known, because there still would have been the same amount of votes.
Exactly.
And I think that's just another one of those funny little twists that could not have been planned for.
Yeah.
That just keep happening in Battle of the Best.
Yep. And then Cameron could have even played that up and said, oh, I voted for Jacobs. And maybe that makes him like lose an ally in Jacobs, but that saves his butt in the future because Jacobs is clearly on the bottom. Clearly Jacobs is next. He just voted with Shelby. Shelby just went home. We've seen previously what happened. Shelby and Edgar voted together. Shelby was on the outs. Shelby goes next. Now Jacobs is on the outs. It would seem that Jacobs would probably go next. If Cameron's saying that he's throwing a vote at Jacobs, he might be on the ends, and maybe he does that.
After much deliberation, we finally get the Tribal Council. Kirk, especially Kirk, does not feel safe.
He doesn't feel safe, but he also says to everyone that he doesn't feel threatened by anyone. He says nobody here is a threat to me, and that also will have repercussions later on.
I love Feisty Kirk.
Yeah, I told you Feisty Kirk was going to come back.
So, voting plays out, and Shelby goes home. Cameron, however, does in fact use his advantage. It's a cursed double vote. And the curses are, of course, a big part of this voodoo theme, this voodoo twist. So the curse that Cameron has is they cannot vote at this Tribal Council. When making these cursed advantages, specifically this one that we have seen, was there deliberations? Was there other potential negatives for these curses? Or did you just make this and you think, no, this is the way to do it?
Yeah, there was a lot of deliberation with how I could create these advantages, but the primary thing that I wanted to stick to was making sure that if someone found an advantage, there would be a tit for tat. There would be some sort of negative to go along with the positive. Almost how in modern Survivor we're seeing people find advantages in idols and things like that, and there's some sort of beware that goes along with the idol or the advantage. Maybe players have to gamble their vote in order to risk the chance of getting an advantage, and we've seen that also happen with Peyton in the first and second episodes. But for these advantages and going on par with the theme, I wanted to make sure that there was a voodoo sort of layer to things, and it wasn't so straightforward. Something that will not appear in any of the episodes, that is something sort of behind the scenes that I guess players will only learn about if they're listening to this, is on the advantage menu, there is a way to cleanse your curses that you are falling a victim to. By paying so many fire tokens, you can actually avoid these curses. So if Cameron wanted to, I'm pretty sure that he could have paid the proper amount of tokens to get the curse off of the advantage. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe it was in the fine print that he couldn't do that. But that was a layer to the game that never really affected the game. And that's why people aren't going to know about it. And for the double vote advantage, it turns out that there was something similar that happened on the TV show where it was, I think it was called like a bank your vote advantage, where it was like you get to walk up to vote, you don't vote, and you take that parchment with you, and that will in the future be your second vote. And that's basically what I wanted here, but with it being more on theme, it's like not a straightforward double vote that we're used to seeing in Survivor Durant. It's, well, you got the double vote, but in order to use it, you got to skip this vote, and if you don't skip this vote, this is going to be rehidden.
We end with Tribal Council with Shelby going home by a landslide.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate, and we even get to see that most of the people who voted for Shelby did not want to vote for Shelby.
Yeah, Nate and Gabe were definitely in the middle of this vote. So on one side, you have Briar, Ryan, Kirk, and Taylor. That's 4 solid votes against Shelby. And then on the other side, you have Shelby, Jacobs, what is seemingly to be Cameron. So that's 4-3. And then in the middle, you have Gabe and Nate making the decision of who goes home. And it's kind of a good thing on their behalf that they did decide to go the Shelby route, because if they went the other way and voted Kirk with Shelby and Jacobs, Cameron wasn't going to vote. And yeah, Cameron said that to Gabe. So maybe in hindsight, maybe that was a factor into why Gabe decided to vote out Shelby, because he knew it would have been a tie the other way. They couldn't have successfully gotten out Kirk. And who wants to step into that mess? So it's like, Cameron, we're actually going to need your vote this round. But we also get to hear like Nate's logic and reasoning as to why he decided to go the Shelby round, and it was because he was disturbed at the fact that Jacobs wouldn't even hear or consider Shelby's name being thrown out there. You know, sometimes like Taylor, for example, we are seeing people pitch Kirk in front of Taylor, and Taylor plays the part, and she's like, yeah, Kirk's definitely a possibility, yada yada. So she, you know, does what you're supposed to do. Whereas Jacobs is just immediately shutting it down. Like, no, it's not going to be Shelby. That's off the table for me. Well, that's great, and that's what I like to work with in a game of Survivor. I want loyal people like that that's going to, like, watch my back to that extremity. But that's also very concerning, and it kind of makes sense of, like, why Nate would want to do that, to take away that pair. And like he said, it opens Jacobs up in the line of fire now.
That's something that stabbed me in the back in the past, was being that honest and saying, no, I don't want to vote for this person, I'd rather vote for this person. Well, that changed a big old target.
Yeah.
But now, it's time to award our player of the episode.
Yeah, so who would you say was the player of the episode?
I would have to say the player of the episode. That's a hard one. Everyone was doing so much. Everyone was making their rounds, making their plans. It's hard to give that to just one person. If I had to pick, I would say Taylor. And from the get-go, on paper, odds are against her. She's on a tribe of 4 versus a tribe of 5. Taylor's hearing that her number 1 is once again on the chopping block. She gives the information to her allies that she needs, and she gives the hope to her enemies that they want. I would say Taylor, if anyone, was the number 1 for that round. Again, everyone was playing the part. So it's hard to say that one person above all others.
I would agree with that too. I think that this round, like, Taylor had the most information to work with, and people were just handing it over to her, and she was able to make the vote happen of how she wanted it to go. Yes, it was ultimately in Nate and Gabe's decision of how they were going to vote. They were in the middle, but if Taylor didn't do anything, Shelby wasn't going anywhere. Taylor was the one that decided, oh, Jacobs is letting me know how close him and Shelby are, let me flip it. She did that. She pushed the ball that got it rolling down the hill. I would agree that Taylor is the MVP for this episode. Thank you so much, Sam, for watching the episode, with all of your questions, for going behind the mind with me. I'm excited for you to see the 4th episode and all the tea that gets spilt in that bad boy.
Oh, I love me some tea.
There's a lot of it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we go behind the mind. Now we're going to go into another segment where I go behind the mind with another player. All right, here we are for another 1 year later segment. This week's guest is Survivor Durant's one and only JT, or as we like to call him,
Gabe Workman.
Gabe Workman. And if you didn't understand that, your name is
Gabe Workman.
Gabe Workman. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right, you know.
I feel so sorry for the people who aren't from the South that have to. We're gonna have to put subtitles underneath a podcast just for people.
That'll be embarrassing.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. A lot's changed. Have you gotten to watch the first 3 episodes of?
I have.
Battle the Best. What do you think of the series right now? Just getting to see what everyone is thinking.
It's like just still as mind blowing as it was during the game. There's so much that I thought I knew, but now looking back at the episodes, I didn't really know. You think you're in the talk, and then later on you realize that you weren't in the know as much as you were.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to film this so that way you can be enlightened on how much you're not in the talk. Now, catch us up with your life. When Battle of the Best was happening, you were a newlywed. Are you still married? What does that look like?
Still married. It's going along. We're currently still searching for a house, trying to get all that process going, talking loan, getting in the early process of trying to get a house. No kids on the way yet, thankfully. We both graduated, I guess, in May of last year. I've been a nurse for about a year now, and she's been in her job for a year. So we're definitely settling into the marriage life. We're growing together. We didn't live together prior to marriage, so it's still that phase of like getting used to each other's quirks, and she's super neat and clean and stuff, and I'm not necessarily that in any means, so I'm having to adjust to having everything in place.
What would you say is the highlight for marriage that is the biggest takeaway, like going into the marriage you might not have thought about?
Just truly like having to be there for another person. I know throughout life you are there for someone else to talk to. You know, you have them conversations with people, but when I go home, I'm expected to listen to her every day. Not in a bad way, but have to be that shoulder no matter what the situation is. Whether I agree with her, whether I don't agree with her, she's my wife. I have to be by her side no matter what.
Yeah, that's good. I know that you also mentioned in Battle of the Best, like your pregame confessional and other areas of the game, that you are a rancher. You said, I'm really excited about Battle of the Best. People were able to cover my chores in order for me to come out here. Could you just describe your chores? Do you still have them? What does that look like?
My parents own around 160 acres, and the livestock's changed. My dad's got into bucking bulls now. Since I moved out, I've not had to take care of cattle as much. I still go and check on my horses. I'm not riding them as much as I was. Now I still take care of animals, but it's not near the livestock that I was taking care of, which hopefully in the future I'll have my own land and go back to, building fence and taking care of animals.
Very good. And then also, how are things going with your church? I think that you said something in Battle of the Best, that there was a time in your life when you had to switch churches and it was uneasy for you. What does that look like for you right now?
Post-COVID, our youth group took a definite dip in numbers. So it's pretty well dried up at the youth group at our church, but then my wife's sister, which would be my sister-in-law, started gathering kids up, so I'm getting to teach them on Wednesday nights, getting to share the word with them, which this last Wednesday night I worked, but we're still getting to find times that we can gather up with young people and still teach them the Word of God. And I still get to preach on Sundays, filling for our pastor, so that's nice, still getting to have a part in church that way.
Talking about the game a little bit, you're still in the game after episode 3 has finished, and we don't want to spoil what happens going forward. But up until this point, one major thing is it's just you and Ronnie on the Silverback tribe. And now we do see a shuffle, and now you're on Athena. But what was going through your mind when you heard that it's just you and Ronnie on the tribe and there still is no shuffle? And then you compete against Ronnie and the numbers challenge that are on a box. What was going through your mind just knowing that you're on a tribe of 2.
With the way this game of Survivor is going, I mean, we had the brick challenge where we competed against each other. Then we turn around and have the numbers challenge where we competed against each other. We're on the same tribe, but we haven't been to one tribal council together other than the first one. So it's definitely like me and Ronnie are going to work together, but my purpose in this game is much greater than mine and Ronnie's relationship, so I'm not going to sacrifice my chance at immunity for Ronnie. So it's definitely keeping me on my toes about Ronnie's a stout guy and he's smart, and I'm going to have to compete against him for the rest of this game is what it looks like at this point. So it's keeping me on my toes.
Scary thought for sure, having to compete against him for the whole game, but luckily you didn't have to because you get swapped and now you're on a tribe of 5 members. I would like to pick your brain about the Shelby vote. So what made you turn from the 5-member Athena Alliance and go with Ryan, Kurt, and Taylor to vote out Shelby?
What really got me going that way is Survivor, every vote, it's about numbers. And when you are at the odds of those numbers, you're on the outs. And then you may not be included in conversations you need to be in. So when you vote with the majority, you kind of have that step in, hey, I voted with you. It can kind of show loyalty. So later on in the game, I might be able to approach Kirk or Taylor or one of those people, Ryan, that's in that point. And me and Nate were really in a tough situation of where do we want to fold here. But when Jake has started saying that no one Shelby, it starts looking like a definite pair. Like, okay, they're together no matter what. So if you can break pairs up, there's someone who's going to be left out that you could maybe pick up later on and use as a number as well.
Good point.
You know, we got to be able to move and make changes on a dime. And that's what we were doing at that point.
Was Ronnie ever disappointed that you voted out Shelby?
Not that I can recall. It's been a year now.
You know, we get text messages all the time from fans all over the world that love Survivor Durant. And we actually got a text from Mint Chocolate Chip Lover 22. He had a text message question for you. He asks, do you still believe that the Game Master is coming to take your water?
You know, I still sleep by it every night just to make sure that I don't get thirsty. You gotta stay, you know, that saying, while we wait, we hydrate. So I stay by that water and stay ready for him.
You put it right between you and your wife in bed.
Exactly. It was Peyton at the time, but now my wife can help me secure it.
That's wonderful to hear. Gabe, thank you so much for going behind the mind with us and catching up in our 1 year later segment. We're now going to watch some deleted scenes from this episode.
Yeah, mad props for that. Hello. I wasn't ready for that. Hey, you got a bottle. I got that. I was just my nose isn't dry. Yeah, go for it.
I want to work with you. Yeah. What you think?
Yeah. Well, with your arms, just give it a minute, they get better.
I bet it would help.
Weak.
Actually, I probably think this would help better, to be honest.
Oh, it popped, my wrist popped.
Because the blood will slow back down.
Dude, I literally can't feel that out there. What was the answer?
Thor's hammer. I don't know.
I got
$17.
What?
Thanks.
Oh,
Yeah, Brussels. I kept thinking Boca Raton.
yeah.
I don't know why. Please, thank you.
Now you can have some of that diabetic. Here in a second when it gets filled, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Alright, have you got right there? Oh my gosh, I already ran through this water.
I got some
That's
stinger.
all we get, right?
Oh, look at that. I got some work too.
I'm gonna say some coins up as we do later on.
Yeah.
Water will be the.
Oh, shit.
Come on.
We're here all day tomorrow too.
It'll make me feel like I'm being helpful. I keep thinking the feeling's back, but then it's like a little bit right in the wrist.
Briar, did you need to fill it?
Here. No, I'm good. Thank you.
No worries. Take a drink.
So who hasn't been to tribal yet?
Me.
Ryan?
Never been there. You've been there every single time.
Well, technically, we wouldn't when Cole dropped out.
Oh,
But we
yeah.
didn't like actually have trouble. So
yeah.
sort of, but not really.
Yeah.
But you know, technically, I have lost yet again. I've lost, but I haven't like voted.
Yeah.
Where is he, by the way?
He's in my bag. He's chilling in
See him peeping? See him peeping? Just lurking?
Yeah.
He's lurking. Let's see if you can do it again. Immunity is back up for grabs.
Technically, he was mine first.
Okay, our plan is to go for Briar. Hopefully that works. We should have our
Everyone but
orange.
Briar, I think.
Right. Yes. We for sure have us three, Kirk, Jacus, and Cameron. And then we should also have Gabe, and then we probably will have Nate just because everyone else is voting. He'll figure that out. He won't want to be alone. So it should be an easy vote.
Before that, we
Yeah,
had
no, strictly.
so we might be back to physical.
Or like a relay. I liked those relay ones that we did the first challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun.
I like the relay with you guys especially.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so down.
We literally saw, like, we looked around because we had plenty of time to scout the competition. So we literally looked around and we were like, all right, Orange is the team to beat. That's it. That's
Yeah.
the one. And we were like, literally anyone else.
Yeah. At that first challenge too, our tribe was like, Orange is gonna win. Orange is gonna win.
Yeah. Like, very quickly pegged you guys as top dogs.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a good sign since we're Orange.
Ah, look at that. Their luck is
Maybe
on our
not from
side.
other people, but like,
Mhm.
we've all been a part of other tribes at this point, so
True.
that'll help.
Who do you want to visit the Tree of Fate?
Can't vote for yourself. Try again. Now, Briar, I know you didn't play in Season 6, but they have this thing called the Assassin Twist. If you were to write down Nate, the person who you want to see go to the Tree of Fate, if you were to vote him out, I'll give you an idle clue.
Good deal.
Okay? What if I give you an idle clue plus 2 fire tokens?
Good deal.
Alright.
I specifically wrote like a boy for a reason. I think my biggest missing just
TSL. You might not be totally familiar with the Assassin Twist of Season 6, but that's exactly what's happening right now. If you were to vote for the person who you just wrote down, if you were to vote out Kirk, I'll give you an idle clue.
not worth it. How am I going home?
Alright, now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Assassin Twist from Season 6. If you choose to vote out Ryan, the name you just wrote down, I'll give you an idle clue.
Not gonna do it.
Now, I know you're familiar with the Assassin Twist. So, if you were to vote out TSL, I'm willing to give you an idle clue. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Assassin Twist from Season 6. If you were to vote out Briar, the person you just voted for to go to the Tree of Fate, if you were to vote out Briar, I'll give you an idle clue.
And Gabe, I know you're familiar with the assassin twist. If you were to vote out Ryan right now, I'll give you an idle clue.
I'm gonna stick to playing my game.
I know that you're familiar with the assassin twist. So, if you vote out Gabe, the name that you just chose to go to the Tree of Fate, if you write him down, I'll give you an idle clue.
That's a nice feel.
Now, I don't know if you're too familiar with the assassin twist and Assassin's Creed, but if you were to vote out Jacus, the name that you just wrote down, I'll give you an idle clue if you vote him out.
There was a gnome named Fiddlefoot who lived in a village with other gnome kind. He loved to pull practical jokes on everyone around. Whether it was a mailman gnome, a fireman gnome, a garbage man gnome, a pilot gnome, a nurse gnome, a substitute teacher gnome, a vet gnome, a scuba instructor gnome, or a fully grown, living alone in a dome for a home whose name is unknown gnome, no one was safe. But what was safe to say was that Fiddlefoot loved to trick, and as such, his gnome kind started to call him a troll. Fiddlefoot embraced his new identity completely, and he began to plan many new pranks on the villagers. He turned the sod houses into grass huts. For Gnome Means Gnome Day, he gave away coconuts. He bought a bungalow and gave it to the elderly. But next door was a frat house, so they'll never get any sleep, he thought cleverly. He ripped the tags off mattresses and called the policeman gnomes on the owners. He borrowed a kidney he didn't need and wrote an IOU to the donor. He'd leave the twisty tie off of bags of bread. He'd go into cardiac arrest at will and only pretend to be dead. Fiddlefoot, Fiddlefoot, Fiddlefoot. Finally, in the year 1843, the villagers grew tired of Fiddlefoot and his jokes, so they exiled him. Fiddlefoot became a gnome on the roam, and as such, he ended up in Rome. And then he moved to Brussels to settle down. But before that, he visited Honduras, Maldives, Denmark. He ate chili in Chile, but left because it was chilly. Liverpool, Mongolia, Russia. Never mind. We don't talk about Bruno. Never mind. Then he went to Holland, Toronto, to Chad, the hippie gnome for all your hippie gnome needs. Chad, the country, the mall, Essex, Singapore. Then he sang To the Poor in Poland. He went to Wales, seen white whales. Then he visited wishing wells, lost $4 and said, oh well. He met wild penguins and puppies, red roses too, trees of green, skies of blue. Then he thought to himself, holy shnikes, the pixies are attacking! For years, the pixies and the gnomes have been at war, fighting for dominance in the folklore world. 33 years after settling down, Fiddlefoot went and signed up for the draft, but was rejected because he was a troll and not a gnome. And also because he has 2 left feet, his toes stick together when it's hot out, he can't say the alphabet backwards, he likes 14 pineapples on his pizza, owes $17 to a guy named Carl, gets constipated after doing 15 cartwheels. He also enjoys long walks on the beach at night, and he's single, ladies, hey. But he snuck into the war anyway and saved Private Gnome Man. He won the Battle of Bunker Gnome, sailed down Schitt's Creek with General Custard Gnome to the Little Big Gnome where they secured another victory. Afterward, they had a glass of juice. I said a glass of juice. Then Emperor Hirohito Pixie gave the order to glitter bomb the shit out of Gnomeville. And everyone knows glitter gets everywhere. So the gnomes were forced to withdraw, and the century-long war continues even still to this day. But what became of Fiddlefoot the war hero? Fiddlefoot, 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 Fiddlefoot. After 12 years a soldier of war, he moved to Hollywood and became a movie director, of course. After spending 52 years studying his passion, he finally made his first movie called There's an Idol at Your Camp Buried Within Eyeshot of Your Water Well. Whether it was horror, western, romance, thriller, action, mystery, crime, drama, or comedy, especially comedy, Fiddlefoot had studied it all. Well, all except war movies, and now you know why. Because the fan base demanded it, Fiddlefoot made a sequel to his original motion picture called You May Be in a Rut, Being at the Losing Camp, but look under a stump and your safety will be stamped. If you're at the winning area, there's not much more to wish for, but this wishbone-shaped tree will guide you to what you restore. What a lengthy title, so weird. Fiddlefoot has since retired from filmmaking and has decided to grace Survivor Durant with his presence, being the star of Season 4, and has brought the trolling with him. He's also become a YouTube star, creating his own series, Fiddlefoot Film Lore. He discussed his thoughts about several different topics, including Shark Week at 2 minutes 43 seconds, Heroes and Villains at 2 minutes 53 seconds, Rivals at 2 minutes 30 seconds, Shadows at 1 minute 57 seconds, and Sequels at 2 minutes 31 seconds. Fiddlefoot has also made up his own rap song called Terror of the Me, which gave us the bars, I hope my tricks do annoy ya, and they cause paranoia. You can try, I employ ya, but if you let me down, I will lock you out. What do I call it? Oh yeah, Autumn in Pandora. Once Fiddlefoot is finished with his new set of tricks at Battle the Best, he will retire with an ogre known for slaying pixies. Let's hope he doesn't lose control there, but you know how it is. Yeah. You will also all want to remember the combination 1831-52. Happy trolling. That's our story. Let's put it to the test.
Answer questions. Because that's a lot.